all seen lots of stuff, scripted, unscripted stuff. And what sorts of genres worked well? I know, Christina, you did something with Lion. You worked on something called Lion King. What was that like?
Well, yeah, VR Playhouse did the post-production on the Lion King 360 piece that Total Cinema 360 produced, and I thought that was a real, a very interesting way of capturing a live theater event, because it didn't just, there was an artistry to it. They didn't just put the camera on the front of the stage and let it run. I mean, they had choreographed where the camera would go depending on what was happening on the stage at that point, and it was thrilling because it was a way of experiencing the live show that or none of us could have experienced it otherwise. So that was, and I think we'll see more of that. So that was a good example. And I personally, we really like, at VR Playhouse, we're really into psychedelic VR experiences. I think that, like you were saying, the subconscious and the altered reality, it's like, this is something VR can do that we can't do in real life. It can take us to heightened and altered realities. And so that's one genre I think that could be very, very exhilarating and transformative.
I don't know, I think this is just a small piece of what VR is. I mean, obviously hear the argument of VR and 360 video, and pretty much most of the stuff that we're talking about here, purists would say is not VR, it's 360 video. So I think this side of it, and developing like the language and applying what rules from the language of film work in VR to VR, and getting really good tight 360 video pieces, is all going to be part of something larger as well, like programmatic pieces where you can, especially with Riot, and I believe you guys are moving in this direction too, and for me personally, I find it most beneficial to do educational pieces. We're doing experiments in narrative just to see what it can do, which is part of educational. It's a documentary as a narrative. But where I find it very exciting is being able to convey information, like statistics or sizes of things or scale and things like that. And in that discovery, history, Nat Geo world where we already work as Green is interesting. And what I'm most excited about is applying, distilling this down to the best that we can get as 360 video makers, applying the languages of film, and then incorporating that into the programmatic aspect of like what Liquid Cinema is doing with heat mapping and being able to choose an edit where you happen to be looking and driving, so now you've got your viewers not only just a TV set anymore, you've got this computer that you're giving feedback to as you're watching it, so it can start giving feedback to you, and you can elevate the movie, cinema, whatever experience that we all know as human beings to something larger. So that's for me the most exciting part.
Yeah, I think we're heading in that direction. In terms of what other genres kind of work, I know Gareth has done some really interesting stuff. Maybe Gareth, you want to mention some of your? Because I know it works because it's great.
Well, of course, a lot of it is news oriented, but I mean, certainly, Welcome to Aleppo, which was our VR film that we did in Aleppo. It had extraordinary traction because, to some extent, it was a marriage of what you're talking about, and then also the realities.
And I saw, how the hell did you get one of those cameras into Aleppo?
And it was getting it in was one story, leaving was actually a different story. But within I think 3 weeks we had 100,000 uniques, and I think we're approaching 1 billion uniques on that film. So it's pretty extraordinary. The Crossing we did, which is where we were immersed. Tyson Sadler filmed with the migrants arriving in Lesbos in Greece. It was an extraordinary and compelling way of just taking somebody to a place they couldn't be, that was maybe not inside their body, but it was a simple impossibility to do it. And lastly, I would say, just in my enthusiasm for everybody to kind of just go places they haven't been and to act more as an encouraging force. It's like we were fired a little bit at Riot by things like, why would we film Nepal, the earthquake? Well, how do you convey a story where 11,000 people die in seconds? Seconds. It's like the closest we can do it, I think, at the moment, is to take a 360 VR camera and stick it in there, because everything else that was flat just seems to bounce off people now. And that's the big challenge. And we get an audience from it. Anyway, that's representative not necessarily of where the only place it works, but wow, like how great for all the people who work in this area, and for Nat Geo especially, also take this, that you actually have traction audience building, because without the audience, we're all going to go home early.
Yeah.
And we're so lucky we found an audience with
It's also really important for things like news. You know, one thing that's kind of disturbing sometimes about framed journalism is the fact that it's so, it's subjective depending on who makes the piece. You know, they are choosing everything you see. There's something really powerful about the objectivity of 360 content in news, I think.
Yeah, you know, one of the big things about that is because in 360 POV, really, I won't say it's everything, but it's so super important. And if you have a POV of someone who's on the ground, you know, it feels like you're there. If you have a POV of someone who's, say, in a helicopter overlooking the scene, it feels like you're really there. And if you have the POV of a snake in the middle of the forest and someone's trying to grab you, you really feel. I find that's one of the great things about VR that you can't get necessarily in a kind of durable way, except with VR. So
I wanted to add also something that challenges, and VR challenges the norms, the categories, you know, and we are so stuck also with against words and or like VHS sellers, or when you borrow VHS, like the categories is this track is comedy, this track is science fiction, and different genres and everything. I mean, that was one of the questions, like what genre film, what's the right form for VR, but it challenges all that, and then you can see now the selection of films in many VR festivals is documentaries, fiction, video games, all merged. You know, I mean, there's no separation. And usually, when we come from film background, you know, there's a film festival for film, feature films, for documentaries, and all that is shattered, and that's more exciting. But and also going back to earlier questions, I was late, so but maybe I repeat some of the stuff that have been said. But always the problem is linearity. When you talk about stories, there's always a sense of beginning, middle, and end. And in VR, the sense of time is shattered. It's complete something else. I mean, the idea of presence is not a physical, spatial presence, but more a temporal presence. You know, you're in the moment, you know, and you're not really thinking of building a story. You're not building a kind of analog way of one going to B, going to C, going to D. This is more a digital way of thinking, where the information is simultaneous. It's all grabbable at the same time.